Morning is
10. Finally, I lost the shelter of my Aji's love. One day, my Aji brought me to Fulton and handed me over to my parents. Then she went off to Mumbai to stay with my Atya. I must have been just 8 or 9 years old then. Our house in Fulton's Maharwada was just a courtyard away from the chadi. It was a small hut, with not more than 10 square feet of floor space. For walls, it had stones piled in rows. My father was an established contractor. He was the one who had demolished the hill of Mamadevi in Mumbai to construct new buildings. He had built the bridge at Curry Road. The milk dairy at Pune was also his project. He had earned a lot of money, but he had not been able to save any of it. Whatever he earned, he gave it all away, as if he were the direct descendant of Saint Tukaram, who was famous for his generosity. There was a terrible outbreak of some epidemic fever that claimed many lives during the time when my father undertook the Pune dairy project. The epidemic spread far and wide, and there was no work or food for people. Whole households were being wiped out. People wandered from place to place in search of food, leaving behind all that they had. When news reached that Pandharanath Mistry from their own village had undertaken a large contract in Pune, the entire Maharwada of Fulton set off to Pune. Many were burning with fever. Many had had absolutely no food to eat. Yet they walked all the way to Pune. My father had got a bungalow for himself, and there was no dearth of servants either. When he saw all his people starving and sick, my father bought 2 huge pots, 2 bags of rice, and half a bag of tur dal. His servants built 2 makeshift chulhas in the large courtyard, and began to cook pots of rice and dal. People's health began to improve gradually once they started getting food. Thus death was defeated. The news spread like wildfire. Many more groups of people flocked to the site to work for food, and camped around the bungalow. My father had obtained the contract only to save his people from hunger. Whenever he bagged contracts and made some money, he tried to protect people's lives. He was also greatly influenced by the message of education that was being spread by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. He resolved to educate both of us, my brother and me, and came to Fulton to enroll us in school. There was a huge tamarind tree in front of our hut. People who came to the chadi often sat under its cool shade. During the year 1938 to 39, the courtyard and the ground under the tree would overflow with people. In those days, Dr. Ambedkar was the most favored topic for discussion among the Mahars. They would not tire of praising him. They would endlessly reiterate Baba's qualities. The chadi started getting a newspaper, and reports of Baba's public meetings and speeches began to be read out to the public. There were constant discussions about the public meetings that had been planned, and those that Baba would attend. There was no other talk besides this. People were mesmerized by Baba. They would constantly speak about him, his personality, and his qualities. Our young minds were absorbed. Baba's various names, Dr. Ambedkar, Bhimrao, Babasaheb, became holy chants for us. Young activists, under the influence of Babasaheb's ideas, started enrolling their children in schools en masse. My father enrolled me in school number 2. His friends enrolled their children in the same school. We were about 10 girls in the elementary school: Sushila, Hausa, Shantabagad, Begum, Savu, Ulka, Gulbakavali, Shaku, Asha, and I, quite a big group. After school, we all used to rush to the chadi to listen to the discussions there. One newspaper or the other would invariably carry a report of Baba's speech in some public meeting. My father read out the report and people would listen attentively. None of us had seen Baba, but his words were like elixir to our ears. The revolutionary fervor of his words set our blood coursing through the veins. We felt as if we should go and shake the orthodox by the scruff of their neck. By the time we reached the 4th standard, we had sort of become grown-ups. We were then transferred from school number 2 to school number 5. This school was known as Bahilichi Shala 1. Now, there were about 30 to 40 children from the Maharwada ready to go to Mudhoji High School. The first to go to the high school was my uncle Narahari Jungla Kakade. My brother, Babu Pandharanath Kakade, Digumbar Jungla Kakade, and around 40 other boys followed in his footsteps. But the boys had a problem. They did not have enough space for studying together. Then my brother and my uncle took all the boys and met Dr. Budkumkar of the royal family to discuss their problems. Dr. Budkumkar was very sympathetic. He visited the school and was convinced that the problems faced by the boys were genuine. He handed over half of the backyard of school number 2 for their use. There was a building there with some rooms. My brother named the building Harijan Boarding. This turned all the boys into staunch supporters and soldiers of Baba. Students from other villages also started living in this boarding school. They started studying Baba's philosophy and his writings. Baba's thinking influenced them greatly, and all of them became his dedicated followers. Their unity gave them an identity and strength for the first time in their life. Later, my brother joined politics. The constant discussion in the chadi had a deep impact on young minds. The young were simply electrified. My father could not think of anything else except Baba. He gave up his work, and we often had to go hungry. Yet, he forbade my AAI to go out and work. My brother was also mesmerized by Baba. This ended in huge fights between my father and AAI. My AAI drove my father up the wall. She would nag him constantly. Then my father would lose his temper. Bolting the door from inside, he used to give AAI a terrible thrashing. This was almost a daily routine. We began to live in a perpetual state of hunger. My uncle Baparao Mahadio Kakade had got a job in the irrigation department and was transferred to Shinde Wadi, close to Fulton. He was very proud of my brother and me because we were going to school. Since he was in charge of water, big landowners would keep their produce at his place. Our family of 4 was virtually starving. My paternal Aji, Thakubai, and Aya. Madhu naturally felt very sorry for us. Both of them loaded a horse with various necessities and brought them to our house at Fulton. They brought so much with them that we did not have place to store all of it. Our small hut overflowed with the food and other things. Aya and Aji stayed with us for a couple of days and then left. Though the house was filled with what Aya and Aji had brought, we did not have any money. So my father sold off everything and spent the money. After a week or so, another load arrived. Gradually, my father gave up work altogether. Day and night he would be found sitting in the chatti, talking about Baba. Girls too felt thrilled that our caste consciousness, which had been dormant so far, was now awakened. Our school was predominantly high caste. A majority of girls in our class belonged to the higher castes. For the first time in their lives, they had girls like us, who could pollute them, studying with them. They treated us like lepers, as if our bodies dripped with dirty blood, or as if pus oozed out of our rotten flesh. If they had to pass by us, they would cover their nose, mutter chi, chi, and run as if their lives were in mortal danger. The teacher had allotted us a place in a corner near the door from where we could not move till school was over for the day. The blackboard would be in another corner. We could neither see what the teacher was writing on the board, nor could we raise our doubts in the classroom. If we went to drink at the school tap, the other girls would raise hell. But we never listened to them. We were greatly emboldened by Baba's brave spirit. We 7 or 8 friends would move together as one person. The higher caste girls would hurl taunts and abuses at us, these Mahar girls put on such airs. They have even touched the taps. Now where should we drink water from? Stupid things. Another one would come up with, you know, I have to bathe again after I go home from school. My mother has come to know that Mahar girls sit in our class, and she doesn't allow me to enter the house unless I have a bath. We have to go to the Ram temple. What to do now? Where do we drink water from? They would hurl stones at us and throw dust into our eyes. Then we would get angry and attack them. Tucking up our long skirts, we would just barge into their groups like battering rams and scatter them. They would run away and those left behind would be prey in our hands. We would attack them furiously, pull their long plates, push them to the ground, pinch their cheeks and hands and torture them as much as we could. But we would get back all of this and more once we entered the classroom. Then the teacher would hurl insults at us, to hit us with a long ruler, and make us bend down and hold our toes till school was over. We would bend down, touch our toes and smile at each other. But when school was over for the day, it would be our turn again. When the bell rang, the hearts of these higher caste girls would turn to water. Some of them escaped our wrath by quickly running away, but we managed to catch quite a few of these girls. We 7 or 8 girls from different grades would get together in a group and start roughing up any girl whom we happened to catch. The higher caste girls also got together to surround us. They would hurl insults at us, that Ambedkar has educated himself, that's why these dirty Mahars are showing off. That filthy Mahar, Ambedkar, eats dead animals but look at the airs he gives himself. In retaliation, we said, you shaven widows, how dare you take our Ambedkar's name? You have your own baldy, that stupid Gandhi. He has neither a shirt on his body, nor teeth in his mouth. That toothless old bugger hasn't any teeth. Ha ha ha. Then we would sing a song from our Jalsa. Where's Gandhi's spinning wheel gone? Beam has shaved Gandhi's head off. Our quarrels were nothing more than the hurling of insults at the 2 leaders. Finally, we would chase those girls away and walk back home, laughing and repeating to each other the things that we had said to them. These skirmishes were not short-lived. These fights continued till we finally left the school. In the morning, the higher caste girls hurled all kinds of insults and abuses at us in front of the teachers. It's really too much, that filthy Mahar educated himself. Ambedkar is so vain. Who does he think he is? They would go on and on like this. Then we would respond, our Ambedkar looks like a sahib. You know why your Gandhi is toothless? Because our Ambedkar kicked him in his teeth. Ha ha, that's why your Gandhi has no teeth. And do you know why Gandhi has no hair? Because our Ambedkar shaved it off. That's the kind of man our Ambedkar is. They could not counter us with anything. They would tell one among them, hey Athawale, come on. Don't you talk to these filthy Mahars. They say such obscene things. They call our Gandhi Gandhi. 2, come on, don't even talk to them. If our Gandhi just utters a curse, that Ambedkar will burn to ashes in a second. How could we tolerate this? Ba, we would say. Do you take our Ambedkar to be an oldie like your Gandhi? He will snatch your Gandhis cane and beat him to a pulp with it. They would shout at us in chorus, filthy Mahars, and we would intone in unison. Oh, this Brahmin caste has no shame. Women squat before the barber for a shave. We did not do exercises from our textbooks, but this recital was our daily routine. On the road to the school in Mangal Warpeth, we would come across Gujar women going to the temple. The moment they lay eyes on us, they would make a detour to avoid us. At least one of us would then run towards them, touch them from behind and come back running. Touching them would make us feel as if we were in the 7th heaven. My brother had taught us yet another reformist trick. Inspired by Dr. Ambedkar, he had started composing songs. In Fulton, each square would celebrate Ganeshotsav by having their own idol of Ganesh in their own squares. The boys in the Harijan boarding also started celebrating the festival. They took 60 long sticks, fitted bells at one end of those sticks, and took out a procession singing fiery songs of revolt through the town at night. They would finally arrive. At the chadi at around 10 or 11 in the night. Then the entire Maharwada would gather at the chadi, drawn by their bells and songs. People listened to the songs with great pride. Eventually everyone would join in the singing. The boys sang these songs with such spirit, force and vigor, that our blood would be on fire. The singing continued throughout the night with people lavishing praise on the boys. Lemons and coconut were smashed to ward off evil spirits. The Harijan boarding's Mela was so good that the entire town would listen to the songs and praise the performance. Thus the new wind of Ambedkar's thoughts started to blow. The end of the long night was in sight. In the chadi, Ambedkar's ideas were constantly discussed, and these discussions generated more ideas. One such idea was to celebrate Baba's birth anniversary on April 14th. Everyone heartily welcomed and supported the idea. People started collecting subscriptions to gather a fund. Activists like Nana member, Keshav member, Kala Dadu, Laxman Dalai, Dajram, Srirang Appa, Ramchandra Shankar, Hiram and others worked hard. Since this was the first time Baba's birth anniversary was being celebrated, the entire Maharwada joined in the planning. New clothes were bought for the occasion by each family for the women and children. Padva, the New Year festival of the Hindus, fell a couple of weeks before April 14th. People decided not to celebrate this festival. Our New Year, they said, will be on the 14th of April. We will raise our goody on this day, hang banners, wear new clothes, cook sweet chapatis in each house. Since it was the first celebration, leaders decided that all the young men of Maharwada would wear the uniform of scouts. So they all got dressed in khaki shorts and half-sleeved khaki shirts, wore a whistle around their necks and put on white canvas shoes and socks. All of them had their hair cut short, and some had even gone to the extent of buying English hats. For days before the event, the womenfolk got busy. They polished their houses with cow dung, washed all the dirty clothes and sheets clean, and swept their courtyards. Invitations were sent to people in 84 villages to arrive at Fulton a couple of days before the main event and camp at their relatives' places. In those days people had to walk all the way. Every house overflowed with guests, as if it was a jatra. The guests were impressed with all the preparations, and were all praised for the young activists of Fulton. Finally, the day arrived. It was the dawn of April 14th. People had not slept a wink the previous night. They had worked throughout the night erecting the pandal and helping with other preparations. The activists bathed at 3 in the morning and thereafter raised goodies on all rooftops. Women bathed their children, arranged for their guests' baths and began to make sweet chapatis. The children gathered at the pandal with their combed hair and new clothes. Various groups had been invited from the adjoining villages to play musical instruments like the halgi, lezam and gumki. The activists had decorated a bullock cart and placed Baba's photograph in front of the cart. Thus the preparations for the procession were in place. A band, the halgi, lezam and gumki troops, walked in front of the cart with the khaki-clad boys following behind. The visitors followed them. The procession passed through the town and people watched it in stunned surprise. All the important people from the town had been invited for the meeting. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, the meeting began. The pandal overflowed with people. Kaladada summoned us, Hausa, Sushila and me to sing a song. We were just kids. What songs did we know? No one was worried about that. They just called out, girls, come on, sing a song. We felt confused for a minute. Then I began and my 2 friends joined me. What a shameless god. How I'm fed up with him. The stink of a beer and bulal, friend, has made me lose my appetite. The sounds of the tal and ridung make any head ache so. Why should I see this Vithoba? He is nothing but a black stone. Somehow we managed to sing these 4 lines. And how badly we sang. Each one of us sang in a different pitch. Our voices trembled, we gulped words in between, but we sang. Our listeners were thrilled. Especially so when we sang the last line, calling Vithoba a black stone. Kaladada became so excited that he started to jump up and down. He picked us up, danced around and showered praise on us. Kaladada was my Aya's cousin. He must have been around 30 or 35 years of age. He looked like the film star Master Bhagwan, but his complexion was coal black. He had quite a humorous disposition. He was completely illiterate, and he would have laid down his life for Baba. They were all like children of the same mother. When somebody proposed something, all agreed to it. Wise men were not a dime a dozen then, as they are today. Nobody would say, who's he? Why should we listen to him? Why should we do what he says? No, we won't do it, he's wrong. One person suggested something and 10 people carried it out without a fuss. They all worked with one voice and in one mind. That is why the entire community grew in strength. One body with one soul. Every program was carried out well, with everybody participating wholeheartedly. The whole world marveled at this union. Parents gave everything away to get their children educated. But now, the so-called wise men from every house act like dynamite to ruin this union. Even in routine meetings, if one says something, another opposes it tooth and nail. The third, acting superior, points out mistakes and criticizes everything that the others do. What work can be done in such a situation? Meetings end in chaos. Every person wants to brag about their own greatness and wisdom. People have started breaking the community for their own selfish ends. This has led to the disintegration of the community. Our strength has dissipated. There is no strong leadership among us anymore. A small community shook the whole world in the 1940s under Baba's leadership. Today, the community is huge but has become completely ineffective and feeble. However, it is not late even now. Time marches onward and we cannot afford to slacken our speed. We have to snatch the right moment. We have to forge unity in the Buddha community. 3. We have to join forces to give life to the helpless, 2. Fight the whole world as Baba's heirs, to allow Baba's suffering soul to rest in peace. We may be like rivers, streams, canals, or even gutters, but all of us have to finally merge in the ocean. Our ocean is the community. We have to make it stronger. I may be an illiterate woman, but I speak the truth which I have learned from Baba. Yesterday we were only a handful, yet we could shake the very foundations of the system. Today we number thousands, and yet we are dispersed. 1 man and 10 hermaphrodites. That is what we have been reduced to. The gigantic strength of 1 man yesterday, and the stupid helplessness of 10 timid men today. But remember, we are the heir of that unique man who could take on the whole world. Discard your cowardice and unite in the spirit of brotherhood that Baba desired. 1. Literally a doll's school. 2. Gandhi from Gand, which means buttocks in coarse Marathi. 3. The reference appears to be to the huge number of Mahar people who converted to Buddhism. They are scattered and need to be organized. This appears to be the import. 11.